Alex was in his usual cafe, his safe haven where the police didn't bother him. He watched passers-by walking to work. Even those around him had no idea that this seemingly unremarkable man controlled billions of dollars stolen from the online world and was forced to hide to avoid arrest. His enormous fortune, stored in cryptocurrency, did not bring him freedom. It became a golden cage filled with fear. He constantly lived in anticipation of betrayal or arrest. The worst thing was that 3 people had died because of his money. It was the highest price he had paid for his wealth. Alex came up with an ingenious system of deception that brought him enormous success. However, this success became his downfall. How exactly did he achieve such success? And why did his deception ultimately turn into tragedy? Alex's success story, which later turned into a tragic defeat, began in 2017. At that time, the protagonist was a 4th-year student, 22 years old. He was studying at the cybersecurity department of a technical university in Eastern Europe. It was then that the young man encountered the bitter truth inherent in the post-Soviet space. Alex was surrounded by talented programmers capable of solving the most complex technical problems, but they were paid peanuts for their work. Their income did not match their qualifications. At the same time, corruption was rampant, devouring any honest opportunities to earn money. Decent specialists had virtually no chance. Alex had been fascinated by computers since childhood. At 14, as a teenager, he already knew the basics of coding. By the time he started university, his knowledge in this area was so deep that it far exceeded the standard curriculum. He was not interested in university, as he already had a good understanding of many subjects. He was driven by a thirst for money and a strong desire to engage in non-standard, complex tasks. These 2 motives prompted him to seek income in the so-called gray area of the internet. The young man quickly earned his first money in this field. It was $500, received for 2 days of work on a single script. The script was designed for automatic Bitcoin mining and did not require any documents or identity verification. This amount, $500, exceeded his official income for 2 months of work. Alex gradually expanded the range of his services. He developed bots to boost views, wrote scripts for mass account registration, and created parsers designed to collect personal data from social networks. At the same time, he convinced himself that his actions were not actually criminal, but rather fell into a gray area. His justification was extremely simple. In his opinion, a programmer does not steal or kill, but only writes code. By the end of 2018, his business had grown significantly. His monthly income consistently exceeded $1,000, which allowed him to rent a comfortable apartment. In addition, he purchased a very powerful computer, which gave him access to more complex technologies and allowed him to delve deeper into their study. Having mastered anonymous networks, the specialist studied their principles of operation in depth. He figured out the nuances of crypto mixers, which allowed him to mask transaction traces. Having learned how to quickly set up servers in different jurisdictions around the world to evade prosecution, he earned himself a reputation. In narrow circles, Alex became known as a reliable and highly qualified technical expert. His life was divided into before and after when he received a certain offer. It came in an encrypted voice chat, ensuring the sender's complete anonymity. He was offered a position as a technical architect in a new, extremely ambitious project. Alex immediately realized that huge sums of money were involved. He also realized that this was a chance to work on the really complex technical challenges he had always dreamed of. Despite his inner doubts, Alex accepted the offer. He brought his technical skills resume to the meeting, which turned out to be his ticket into a big trap. Alex was drawn into a project that turned out to be a huge international network of fake online casinos. This network operated on the dark web. Alex took charge of the project using the pseudonym Devnal. He was tasked with creating a copy. It had to be a perfect, indistinguishable copy of a popular European online casino. The copy had to reproduce all the details. Fonts, design, and interface had to be completely copied. However, the most difficult and cynical part of this work was something else: developing algorithms for games. Alex received a clear instruction: no one should win more than their deposit. Alex, using all his technical skills, developed a complex algorithm for this. He began to analyze each new player from the moment of registration. The system was programmed to cheat from the very beginning. It deliberately allowed newbies to win. The winnings were always small, usually about 20 or 30% of the initial deposit. This approach was designed to give players the impression that the system was fair. It was supposed to inspire trust, but soon after, the inevitable loss of all funds would hit them. To scale up his deception and attract more people, Alex created a separate system responsible for providing streams. These streams showed fake winnings. For the hired actors, he developed a special hidden game logic in which large winnings became quite real. Regular viewers watching the broadcast saw this. The streamer, for example, bets €100 and wins €5,000. Those who saw this were under the influence of a strong psychological trigger. This technique repeatedly contributed to the influx of new victims. By the spring of 2020, he was running a whole network of 12 casinos. His monthly income at that time exceeded $50,000. Despite his financial success, Alex faced serious moral and emotional burnout. The reason for this was the sleepless nights he spent reading letters from players who had lost all their money. Among them was a man who lost the money he had saved for his wife's surgery. There was a student who lost her scholarship for an entire semester, and a pensioner who lost his entire life savings at the casino. All these stories came at an invisible but very high price, which became his wealth. In May 2020, an incident occurred that marked the beginning of the end of the casino era. A programmer from Munich, having noticed some suspicious things, analyzed the code of one of Alex's casinos. As a result, he prepared and published a detailed investigation on the internet. Realizing that his true identity and location could be revealed at any moment, Alex was forced to take immediate action. He decided to cease his activities completely. As a result, his name, Devnal, was forever tarnished on the Darknet. Moreover, this story was accompanied by the shadow of 3 deaths that were directly linked to his former partners in the gambling business. For Alex, this time became a period of forced vacation. After he completely shut down the casino due to the risk of exposure, he thought about his next move. It was at this moment that one significant detail caught his attention. In the technical community, where he was still an active participant, one curious story was being actively discussed. The name script-kiddie became a household name, referring to a young, undoubtedly talented Ukrainian programmer. For $4 an hour, he worked on training a neural network designed for what was claimed to be another revolutionary startup. At a 1.0 opened Alex's eyes. Suddenly, he understood something important. He saw that in the world of venture capital, where huge amounts of money were being invested, the line between real innovation and banal fraud was incredibly thin. It became clear to him that cheap manual labor could be successfully disguised as artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, of course, would be cutting edge, and manual labor hidden under such a cover could be sold for millions of dollars. This idea completely consumed him. The idea came to him on its own. It was the idea for NeuroDoc, a startup that was supposed to attract venture capital. It was supposed to be a breakthrough in technological development. The goal was set to raise $2 million, which was exactly how much they planned to collect. To implement this new plan, Alex formed a team. He took on the leading role, becoming the technical architect and developer. In this scheme, he was essentially the chief perpetrator of the fraudulent activities. Then he brought Mark into the business. Mark was responsible for handling all financial and legal matters. He was also tasked with presenting financial models to investors. In addition to Mark, Sophia was invited to join the team. Her role was to handle PR and marketing campaigns. Sophia was supposed to generate the necessary media buzz around their startup. For the new scheme to work, flawless visibility was needed. It was necessary to create the illusion of a functioning startup with cutting-edge technology. Alex, thanks to his deep knowledge of cybersecurity and coding, developed a whole system of fake data for this purpose. NeuroDoc, the main product, was positioned to investors as a revolutionary development. Officially, it was a highly intelligent system designed to automate the complex verification and analysis of complex documents, particularly for venture capitalists. That was the official version of events. In reality, the fancy phrase artificial intelligence was just a cover for a complex technical shell. It hid the truth. All the work was done by an outsourced team from Eastern Europe. This team consisted of talented but low-paid programmers. They were similar to Alex himself in his past, similar to the script-kiddie whose story inspired Alex to carry out this scam. These people, working manually, did all the work, processing the most complex document analysis tasks around the clock for a pittance. At the same time, investors were provided with reports generated from a carefully thought-out, pre-prepared template. To convincingly present his team and himself, Alex used a whole set of masking technologies, imitating top management. For pre-recorded meetings and video presentations, he used a custom deepfake model called Vader. It generated very convincing videos featuring fake co-founders who did not actually exist. During live negotiations, Alex could not afford to risk using his real voice. To achieve this, he created his own voice synthesizer called Chimera. This program modified his tone in real time, making his voice deeper and more authoritative and giving it an American accent with the appropriate intonations, which instantly increased his credibility in the eyes of Western investors. For the most important live meetings where personal charisma and direct presence were required, the team invited professional actress Anna. Introducing herself as one of the co-founders, she masterfully presented key marketing strategies to investors. The goal of this complex, multi-level system was one, to convince investors. They needed to be convinced that NeuroDoc was an innovative product, but at the same time that it was a reliable and stable investment that was about to turn the entire market upside down. The fundraising, which began in the depths of autumn, proceeded at an incredible pace. Every meeting, every letter, every demonstration was part of a carefully thought out and refined strategy. Mark, Sophia, and Alex's team acted as a single, restrained mechanism, masterfully creating the image of a promising startup. Mark, the financial architect, was responsible for the most ambitious part of the presentation. He presented complex but highly optimistic financial models to investors. His forecasts not only predicted growth, but also promised exponential growth, a 50-fold return on investment within 3 years. He didn't just present the project, he painted a picture of the future in which NeuroDoc would become the dominant player in the field of comprehensive testing. Mark masterfully answered any questions about risks, skillfully redirecting investors' attention from the actual lack of a product to the tempting prospect of huge profits. At the same time, Sophia, a master of the media space, generated powerful hype around the startup. She did not resort to banal press releases, but ensured its visibility through prestigious industry publications and closed venture capital newsletters. Thanks to this, she built up the image of NeuroDoc as the only trustworthy and sought-after player that was ready to displace established competitors from the market. Her efforts created a missed opportunity effect. Investors were afraid of missing out on such a revolutionary deal. Alex, hiding in the shadows, complemented this image by positioning himself as a technical genius and co-founder. He rarely appeared in person, only when necessary. During negotiations, he used his Chimera voice synthesizer, which gave his voice an American accent and an impressive, low timbre, instantly increasing his authority. Pre-recorded videos and presentations used the Vader deepfake model to generate convincing images of fictional co-founders. Instead of a finished product, he offered the idea of absolute technical perfection, which, according to him, was supposed to revolutionize the world of finance. Each of his speeches was saturated with complex but empty technical language designed to silence investors' doubts. The heart and, at the same time, the weak point of the whole scam was the ideal speed of document processing. Alex turned the routine, low-paying work of his outsourcing team into a demonstration of technological superiority. The figures he presented were impressive. Regardless of volume and complexity, each document was processed in the same amount of time, 4 to 6 minutes. Alex argued that such flawless linearity was direct proof of superiority. He believed that traditional, slow machine learning (ML) models were doomed to encounter cognitive fatigue or nonlinear delays when processing legal nuances and contradictory data. As proof, he showed graphs in which competitors pondered for a long time, while NeuroDoc consistently produced results with guaranteed, verified machine accuracy. This factor was a key argument for investors, confirming the non-human and therefore reliable nature of the algorithm. He argued, true artificial intelligence should not be vulnerable to the influence of complexity. Our speed is proof of our computational certainty. Alex's main and indisputable trump card during 6 months of negotiations was precisely this accuracy, which he presented as absolute reliability. NeuroDoc always delivered perfect results in a fixed, short period of time, and this fact served as his main, indisputable argument. It allowed him to confidently answer the most complex technical questions. As a result of a brilliantly thought-out legend and the skillful use of deception technologies, the team managed to raise the necessary amount. They managed to raise $2 million. These funds were invested by 3 large American and European venture capital funds that fully believed in the NeuroDoc story. After the money arrived in an anonymous crypto wallet, Alex, the main organizer of this scam, experienced a feeling of complete triumph. In 6 months, his personal income exceeded $500,000 in net income. He felt not only rich, but also like a genius. It was a brief moment of triumph for a cunning deception, a triumph over common sense and reliable checks. But this feeling of victory turned out to be very superficial. It was only a fleeting achievement, inevitably leading to the tragic collapse of his carefully thought-out system. The beginning of the tragic end of this story was not marked by arrests or leaks on the Darknet, but by the appearance of a new, inconspicuous player, Anna Mueller. She joined the team of one of the venture capital funds, and her keen, almost pathological interest in details instantly became the main, previously unseen threat to Alex. While other investors were impressed by the speed and loud statements, Anna undertook a painstaking and thorough check. She did not expect anything good from the fairy tale and immediately began a detailed investigation of NeuroDoc's activities. Strangely enough, her first suspicions arose not from the technical code, but from the mundane financial statements. Anna discovered inconsistencies that literally screamed of fraud. In particular, her attention was drawn to an expense item related to cloud infrastructure. According to the documents, this item cost about $500,000 annually. This was a huge amount, which was supposed to cover the work of thousands of virtual machines processing terabytes of data. However, using the fund's access, Anna discovered that the actual load on the servers on which NeuroDoc supposedly operated was minimal. It did not correspond in any way to the declared huge expenses and massive amount of work. This discrepancy was impossible to explain. Either the funds were being withdrawn or the system was not working as claimed. It was this fact, minimal activity against the backdrop of $500,000 in expenses, that became the first irrefutable evidence of simulated work. A unique test task developed by Anna Mueller helped to finally expose the deception. She realized that NeuroDoc passed standard tests perfectly, so she needed a test that could reveal the logical flaws of real artificial intelligence. Mueller created a short but incredibly complex document, specifically designed to confuse and break any existing machine learning algorithm. This test document was a legal masterpiece of paradox. It contained numerous subtle legal loopholes, ambiguous wording that contradicted itself, and deliberately confusing, contradictory financial data. Real artificial intelligence, working with the principles of machine learning, ML, would inevitably show a non-linear delay when encountering such a document. It would take hours, perhaps even days, to process the contradictions, thinking and expending computational resources to resolve the ambiguities. The result obtained from the NeuroDoc system shocked Anna. The document was processed not in hours, but in just 4 minutes and 32 seconds. The report she received was not just accurate, it was impeccably structured, contained not a single error, and offered a logical, albeit erroneous, resolution to all the paradoxes. It was this ideal, mathematically accurate processing speed, which did not depend on the complexity of the document, that became the decisive factor. Anna realized that she was not up against an algorithm that slowed down as the complexity of the task increased. She was facing a carefully tuned but manual conveyor belt. On it, motivated, talented, but poorly paid people worked at a constant, fast pace to artificially reproduce the work of a machine. The competition was over. Alex's main advantage over investors was his perfection, but this same quality turned out to be his absolute and fatal downfall. That same evening, the phone call that Alex had anticipated but still feared came. Anna Mueller's voice on the other end of the line remained calm but left no room for doubt. She made a harsh, uncompromising demand. Either he explain everything himself, revealing the entire scheme and its participants, or the case would be immediately handed over to the police, including for fraud involving cloud expenses. Faced with the inevitable, Alex took what he believed to be the only correct step. He chose honesty. He told Anna about the entire architecture of the deception. He revealed the scheme, starting with the fake co-founders Vader and Chimera and ending with the Ukrainian team, a team of talented but low-paid performers who had been masquerading as AI for months. The following weeks were spent in exhausting, agonizing negotiations with lawyers. The international nature of the entire scheme and the legal loopholes skillfully exploited by its representatives allowed Alex to avoid criminal prosecution. But a civil lawsuit for damages from 3 large funds was absolutely inevitable. Ultimately, after lengthy disputes and legal battles, he had to return $1.3 million to investors. After paying all the compensation, paying the lawyer's fees, and closing the company, he was left with about $500,000 in net income from the $2 million he had fraudulently raised. That was his earnings for 6 months of a grand scam. Now, sometime later, Alex lives in another country, carefully hiding under a different name. He has completely changed his activities and is now engaged exclusively in legal business. In a bitter irony of fate, he advises real startups on attracting investment. His unique experience in creating a fake AI startup has made him a real, indispensable expert on real technologies, their evaluation, and, most importantly, on identifying fraud. He often reads analytical reports. For example, they say that 40% of European AI startups, according to MMC Ventures, don't actually use real machine learning. Alex realizes that the line between innovation and deception is really very thin. He also understands the main rule: any lie, especially in high-tech areas, will be discovered sooner or later. This happens when real experts who understand the details come into play, who do not limit themselves to a superficial examination, but look for hidden subtexts in the numbers. He still often thinks about that young Ukrainian guy, Script-Kiddie, whose story inspired him to follow this path, and wonders if that guy is still working for pennies for another revolutionary startup that is really just a facade, while his cheap and talented labor is being sold for millions.